I thank you everybody for attending this meeting of the Performance Scrutiny Committee, Place and Corporate. I'm not going to read it out verbatim, but basically we're all familiar with it from full council. This scrutiny meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the coronavirus regulations and the remote meeting protocol agreed by council, which will operate alongside the council's standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. I would like to remind members that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Can I request that you switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise? Please don't share your screens. And to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast, the council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting. In the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Can I also remind members to ensure their chat function, which we spoke of earlier, is switched on, and that we use the facility to indicate to me when you wish to speak on a particular issue. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so. Thank you, everybody, for that. And just on a personal note, can I just ask you all to sort of bear with me as I go through the meeting? And this is the first meeting proper that I've chaired virtually, and I'm sure you'll bear with me as much as possible. So first of all, Neil, could we have any apologies, please?
Councillor Ken Critchley, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Ken Critchley. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 7th of September. We've all read those. That was a very brief meeting when we looked at our programme for the coming year. So I'm going to take those as read and minuted. If there are any matters arising, Neil, can we make a note to do that at the end? Yeah, but I'm guessing there wouldn't be. Okay. Item number 4 on our agenda is the 2020-2021 service plan mid-year review. Members can find the service plan in their papers, starting on page 5 and running to page 114. And I believe we have Councillor Ray Truman, and Gareth was meant to attend, but unfortunately he's unwell at the moment. We've already said that we're going to pass on the Scrutiny Committee's best wishes for a speedy recovery to Gareth. So refresh my memory, Neil. Who's attending in Gareth's stead?
Chair, we have Matthew Cridland and Rhys Thomas.
So Matthew and Rhys. Hi, Rhys, and thank you, Matthew. Councillor Truman, yeah.
Yes, I'm here, Chair. Yes.
Sorry, yes, I can see now. Yes, sorry. Right, thank you, Ray. Ray, with your permission, it's up to you how you want to. What I would perhaps like to do, if you or one of your officers would like to give an overview, and then we'll go into questioning. Is that acceptable to you? About a 5-10 minute maximum overview. Is that okay?
Fine, Chair. I'll just do a short overview, and as I say, I've got 2 officers there, and myself will try and answer your questions after that.
Okay, thank you. Go on then, Ray.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chair, as you say, for inviting me along today, and my 2 officers joining in as well. And as you've already pointed out,
Councillor, would you mind awfully putting your camera on? I do apologise. Councillor Truman, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anne. So if you are speaking, could you please put your camera on, and obviously your mic? That would help. That wasn't directed at you, Ray. Thank you.
I'm taking autographs later.
It's good to see you.
Thanks, Chair. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for inviting us along, and my two colleagues as well, Rhys and Matthew. And as you said earlier on, Chair, apologies for Gareth, because he's ill at the moment, which is very unusual for Gareth, but I'm sure he'll get well soon and be back with us. So I'll kick off if I can, just to briefly give a brief introduction. This is for the first 6 months of 2021, as you know, and to be quite honest and frank, the 6 months have been mostly occupied by COVID work, because this is probably this portfolio is probably the one most involved in the COVID-19 issues, because most of the officers have been doing all their work. They've had to come away from doing their normal work to get into the COVID enforcement, the test, trace, and protect, while we scale up, because we've been interviewing for quite a number of staff. I think it's about 90 in total, because we've got a unit set up in Newport covering our area, and we've got to have the staff to do that. So we're doing that. So all the work basically have been around that. But there's some good stuff which the officers will probably go on to tell you about, has been achieved despite all the work that we've had to do around COVID-19. So I'll pass you over the officers now, if I can, Chair, and they'll give you a broader outline on where we are at the moment.
Thank you, Ray, and we do. And could you pass on to your area of responsibility our thanks, particularly to everyone, but also the officers that are involved in the COVID response, track and trace, and so on. Seriously, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, I'll do that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we've got Matthew and Rhys. Hello. All right. Okay.
Hello, Chair.
Listen, guys. We do know we are in. We had our pre-meeting here, and we do know we as a council are in unprecedented times. But we obviously have to exercise our duties as regards scrutiny. So what I would like perhaps is for you guys, you're aware of the ambers and the reds in your report. I would like to give you perhaps the opportunity for a few minutes to highlight and to mitigate anything that's there, and then I can open up to members for questioning. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me, Chair.
Okay, Rhys, do you want to lead with that then, Rhys, or Matthew? Would you like to lead with that?
Shall I go first, Rhys?
Go on, Matthew. Yeah, go on. Yeah. You probably
okay,
go first.
My sound from the chair and from other speakers is going in and out, so I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you. Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll give it a go. Okay, right. Thank you. As Councillor Truman explained, a lot of our work has been put on prioritized. Lots of the proactive surveillance work has just been parked just for a while, but we have continued to do the more higher risk, high priority road trader work. We've maintained that, but the majority of our work, the vast majority of what we've been doing in trading standards and licensing has been related to COVID enforcement, particularly around businesses and making sure that all the reasonable measures and social distancing requirements have been met. So I've put together some facts and figures that I think would illustrate the work that we've done.
That's
in
great.
the first half of the year.
And excuse me, everybody, I just need to go and if you just carry on, I just need to get something.
Will do.
Go on, carry on.
Okay, thank you. So in the first half of the year, officers from Trading Standards and Licensing have provided businesses with advice on COVID compliance on 1,451 occasions. We've completed 1,008 COVID compliance inspections and carried out 1,993 assessments of compliance. The inspections are included in that figure, but we can also do compliance assessments remotely through the phone, through investigations and so on. What we have found is the compliance rates with businesses was 93% across the whole the whole piece of work that we've done. So been really pleased with the response that we've had from businesses in quite a trying time. However, that 7% does relate to non-compliance, so we have had to undertake some enforcement in some areas. We've issued 26 premises improvement notices for various failings, tracing requirements and so on. We've closed 3 premises using our powers. 9 other enforcement notices, like compliance notices, prohibition notices, fixed penalty notices, have been issued. And as a result of our COVID enforcement work, 1 nightclub has had their premises licence suspended for 3 months because they were operating as a nightclub, which of course was banned during all the lockdowns, and it is still banned now. Lots of what we've been doing has been in partnership with our with businesses, with Gwent Police, other agencies, particularly with other departments in the council. We've had some excellent work with colleagues in environmental health who have been passing us on sort of problems that they found with business premises, and then they pass, where infections have occurred, they pass that to us, and then we've gone to those premises and carried out some enforcement and issued notices and so on. Many of the licensed premises checks that we've been done have been with the support of our partners in the police, lots of multi-agency working, and we've been really pleased with the response that we've had from them. We're all singing from the same hymn sheet. It's very good. Also linked to COVID, sort of rogue traders, they'll take advantage of whatever they can. So there've been COVID related scams that we've been working on. That's included interventions, investigations and media warnings. And most recently, Welsh Government have identified that this is quite a strain on the normal working of local authority public protection. So they've given us funding for 5 officers to do COVID enforcement. So this will support the efforts of the current teams, who will continue to do quite a lot of COVID enforcement, but will also allow us to return a little bit more to the consumer protection and licensing work, because what you'll find is that whilst we've taken our eye off a lot of these businesses, some of them will be taking advantage of that, and some of them will be making mistakes that they otherwise wouldn't make. I think that's the best way to put that.
I think that's great. Thank you for that. It did give us a quite detailed perspective on what you've been doing, in light of the fact that perhaps you've had some red and amber areas. So thank you ever so much. That really did help. That's why, obviously, the purpose of the scrutiny committee is to look at those areas where appropriate and to scrutinise the performance there. Rhys, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Good afternoon to everyone else on the call. My role within this department has recently changed. However, I've been working very closely with Matthew for the last 5 years. I've taken over from Jonathan Keane, for those of you who are not familiar with my name. I'm the interim regulatory services manager, back from his TTP stint. If I could go through the review process, there are a number of amber areas that are allocated against teams within my responsibility. And if I could just give you a sentence update per action.
Yeah. Could you look at the red ones first of all, and then do the amber ones? Is that okay?
I wasn't aware there was a red one against me. Apologies, Chair. Let me just check.
No. Sorry, perhaps there isn't against you. Yes, do the amber ones. Go.
I don't believe there's an amber one, Chair. Forgive me.
Overlap between the 2 areas, isn't it? Yeah.
So the first one is at point number 6 in the table, Chair, and that's air quality. Air quality in contaminated land at Newport City Council has been discharged by a dedicated officer historically, and that officer left. The timing of the departure was really quite unfortunate. It happened just before the first incarnation of the lockdown. We had some workarounds. We were quite innovative in developing relationships with other local authorities to try and help stopgap that capacity. One of the tasks that I've been given in the last month on picking up the role from John Keane is to onboard Steve Manning. He is our Contaminated Land and Air Quality Officer. So he is now on board. He is day 6 of his employment at Newport and is finding his feet. This directly relates to action point 6 in the review, and he will come online now and start working towards the corporate objectives. We have a meeting with the Chief Exec towards the end of the month planned in to take a clear corporate steer, and we also have an action plan about the initial things that need to be done on air quality. So we can start seeing progress there on this amber area. Moving on to action point number 8, the food safety team and all of environmental health directly support regulating business, akin to what Matthew Cridland has already briefed. The vast majority of regulation has ceased for a variety of reasons associated with COVID, notwithstanding, not including an awful lot of premises were shut for a long time, so there wasn't a business to regulate. That being said, where we need to, we still maintain an ability to respond to the highest risk complaints that would originate from them. Action point 11 is an amber area for the noise, nuisance and community team within environmental health, and it's around the PSPO, the Public Space Protection Order. That work is ongoing with initial information being received back from key partners, and it will be something we're looking to progress through the remainder of the autumn and into early winter. And then finally, something which is directly applicable to me, I previously managed the food safety team. The Food Standards Agency graced us with an audit back around 3 years ago, and they came back for a revisit, and one of the issues was to deal with the action plan. We made very good progress with that action plan, however, that pretty much stopped back in March when inspection activities for routine inspection activities also were suspended when businesses closed. That being said, regarding a lot of the actions, we have made good progress on the Food Standards Agency action plan.
Okay, thank you, Rhys. That was very good. And thank you for addressing those issues in advance. Right, I'll open it up to members now. I think if you guys could perhaps, if there are questions, that act as a bit of a tag team, and I think it's totally acceptable, given that your head of department isn't your Gareth, obviously, that you, if you don't know the answer, just say, and you can give us a written answer in return, because I know there's some overlap with the areas of responsibility and so on.
Chair,
yeah.
One thing which I haven't kind of covered, which I would like to, or
okay,
perhaps the committee might want to hear from, is the other side of the work that's been done, which is the TTP work and the environmental health response to COVID, which I think may be of interest to some people, and something that Councillor Truman introduced.
Yes, go on then. If we'll give you.
Only a moment. In short, the TTP services didn't exist as of June and has come online in this time. There's been a very substantial investment in time and effort to get that process up and running, and Keith Leslie was appointed from within environmental health to head up the team there, and we are at around 40 advisors at the moment, and making very good progress to appointing 14 contact tracers. The so what of that is that all of that information means we can stamp on cases of COVID very quickly, and we can refer clusters to the environmental health team, who are then managing those clusters within workplaces. So the so what of that information is that the environmental health department, principally the food safety and the health and safety team, EHOs and supporting officers, are they are applying the public health principles that are at their core in trying to keep clusters, individual cases and workplace outbreaks under control. So that's where they are working when they're not dealing with some of the amber issues aforementioned in the plan.
Excellent, well done, Rhys. McDad, do you have a question there?
Yes, Chair.
I wasn't certain. Okay, over to you.
Okay. On Action 11, which to do with the public space protection order, that's been a number. And again, you know, I have to say, we are very much aware of the excellent work being done during this very difficult time. I think my concern about that, because there is obviously one that operates in the city centre, there is another one that operates in the Pill area. The delay there, is that an issue? I mean, I can understand why the delay maybe has to happen, but does the delay affect anything at all? The order, it can still be valid there, isn't it?
Okay, the order ceases and then needs to be reissued, and all the key stakeholders have to be consulted, and the need for the order evidenced, and we're at that stage at the moment. It's something I've only just picked up, so my detailed knowledge is probably ends there, Councillor, but that's my understanding.
Yes, I mean, but I mean, in terms of the existing order, that does not invalidate that, does it? The delay does not invalidate that, does it?
I'd have to seek guidance on that, Councillor. I couldn't give you a guaranteed answer.
Thank you, Rhys. I think, Mick, we have to accept that Gareth isn't yours, so Rhys will get back to you with a detailed written answer.
Yeah, that's fine, Chair. That's fine.
Is that okay?
Can I continue with the next one, if I may?
Of course, yeah. Could I just be, well, whilst you're collating the next question, Mick, if any just one second. If any other members have a question, if you could just raise your hand, please. Mick, back to you. Go on.
No, I'll come back again if you want to move on. That's okay. I'll come back.
Okay. All right. No problem. Well, nobody else has indicated, so it's you have the floor, Mick.
I think the next one is to do with the food safety matters there, and you're saying there really that let me just see, that the Food Standards Agency has now relaxed the requirements for local authorities to undertake proactive inspections in recognition of the resources that are required for the COVID response. Again, obviously, we understand all that, but that is a very important area, isn't it? I mean, you know, while we are looking after public health in terms of the COVID, and that's a pandemic, should we sort of take our eyes off something like sort of food standards in the city? You know, I'm sort of asking you your response to that, really.
Okay.
Rhys, yeah. Or Matthew, or together?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to come into to agree there, Chair.
Okay.
So, Councillor, I recognise and acknowledge your concerns. The initial steer was issued back towards the start of the summer, and there's been a variety of updates from the Food Standards Agency since then. Yes, we have to acknowledge that there may be some risks associated with not inspecting some food businesses. Yes, I acknowledge your concern, Councillor.
Thank you. And yeah, okay. Thank you, Mick. I believe Councillor Mark Whitcott. Mark, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I echo what you said about really that the officers deserve to be thanked and congratulated for managing to keep the show on the more than keep the show on the road. I mean, keep the many hundreds of functions, particularly in law and regulation, going, and there's been no more important time to do so. So, there were just a couple of points really that in regard to, I don't think that officers should be too hard on themselves in terms of those amber areas. That's not to be complacent, but I mean, given the impositions that have been placed upon them, I think it's understandable. And certainly in the case of air quality, I can't imagine that perhaps officers could answer this point, that would have in any case suffered. In fact, from what I gather, air quality has improved across the period because of the reduction in generally in the amount of traffic.
That's a good point.
But it just another point which is in the action numbers, action number 15, which is to ensure that available resources are utilised to prepare the service for increased export and import regulatory duties as a result of Brexit, and I think that really underlines the scope of the portfolio and the responsibilities of law and regulation. But I would say that, in my view, that considering all the other factors that we've mentioned, I do think that it's a considerable achievement that that point 15 is still showing a green. Would you agree with that?
Okay, thank you, Mark. So yeah, there wasn't a question there, but thank you for that feedback and the comment. And I would echo what you said about the air quality. Actually, that was a very good point that didn't enter my mind. Thank you. Obviously, less traffic. Yeah, good point. Okay, I believe Councillor Richards, John, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I find it difficult to ask the detailed question because, I mean, against the backdrop of COVID, it's more than ever now that the public of Newport are depending on both Rhys and Matthew and their staff to protect them in this dangerous situation. And I welcome both the reports and your joint work with the other teams, the police, etc., in the way that you've handled this situation is exceptional. I'm sure the public are eternally grateful to you. You've all stepped up to the plate, so to speak, and well done to you all.
All right, so that was a comment, John, but we'll allow it. Thank you, well done. Yeah, excellent. No, Mcdad, are you indicating again? Yeah. Do you have another question, Mcdad?
Yes, yeah, I'm glad the air quality has been mentioned, and it was the very point I was going to make. Will I be right to think that we only monitor air quality in the Killeen area, or do we monitor it in other parts of Newport?
It's monitored across the city, Councillor.
Okay, just that we don't see any data about it at all. I mean, I'm not aware, for example, what it is in the city centre.
Okay. Yes, it is monitored, Councillor, across the entire city in two different ways. We've got passive tubes for one set of monitoring, and there's a dedicated air quality monitoring station at another location. So that those are the two monitoring techniques, and both of those functions have been maintained, although there hasn't been a dedicated air quality and contaminated land officer in post since back in the spring, but the functionality has been maintained.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the point I was going to make, really, because of the COVID situation and obviously the reduction in the traffic and all that, it would be useful, really, to collect data, maybe we're already doing that, about the improvement in the air quality. You know, it could inform us really for, if you like, when we return to some normal, as to really what's the relationship then, you know, between the traffic, how can we then improve air quality? Because I think this has been an excellent time in a way, you know, is the silver lining, if you like. It's given us a period of time, and it's quite an extended period of time, where we can actually, you know, collect data on air quality, and then we see how it correlates with the traffic and economic activity in general, really, isn't it? Do you collect that sort of data? Do we have that data?
Yes, yes, Councillor. I couldn't tell you specifically exactly what's being collected, but there is NOx, so nitrogen oxide is recorded, and then at our static monitoring station. An awful lot more is recorded. One of them is they both provide a functionality and a set of reports. I'd have to defer to the scientific officer who's dealing with it for the specifics, but I can reassure you that it is there. And one of the things about the air quality is it's an integrated problem. It's not a local thing. Of course, it has a much more regional impact, and is in the next couple of years will be drawn on and affected by a lot of other decisions as well, not just traffic. So it's an integrated issue, and that's one of the things that the scientific officer who is starting has started in the last 6 days will be looking to take forward in the various partnership groups, the Sustainable Transport Group, etc. Councillor.
Yeah, but the data is available. Yeah, the data, we are collecting the data. Yes,
it's collected. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, McDad. Really good question. I think Charles has a question there. Are you there, Charles? Can I remember, whilst Charles is coming in, can I remind members to switch their cameras off, please?
Yeah. Two things, basically. I noticed on page 28 that there's a need to sort of correlate the local toilets, public toilets strategy. I was wondering, really, with so many pubs and restaurants being forced to close down, have we any sort of ideas about how to try to compensate for this lack of facility? I mean, some of the only loos I think you've got access to now are sort of some of the garages.
Councillor Truman, obviously this is a paper ready for next week's meeting on the 11th. Would you like to? Shall I respond, Councillor?
Yeah, you can, but I can follow up after if you like, Rhys.
Go on, Rhys.
Thank you, Councillor Truman. There's a toilet strategy that was drafted by Jonathan Keane after consultation through 2019 as a result of the Public Health Act work, and it goes to Cabinet next week. And in short, it commits the local authority councillors to assessing the need of toilet provision and then being quite innovative about how to provide it. The legislation and the guidance associated doesn't require local authorities directly to provide facilities, but to be mindful of how they can be provided in the future through developments, through working with partners. So that strategy is with Councillor Truman now.
Excellent question. Good answer. Thank you, Charles.
May I ask another, Chairman?
Yeah, have you got to come back? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's not to do with the loos, but I know.
Question is good.
Well, yes. I mean, well, two bites to the cherry, if I may. I noticed that on page 40 there is a need to improve the coroner service. Is this in the view of the dire circumstances we might be in if this epidemic breaks loose?
Rhys or Matthew?
I think Rhys and myself have no knowledge of the coroner's service and the improvements required. We can take that back if you like and get the appropriate manager to reply.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Chair, I can give you some background on it, on that one, Chair, if I can.
Okay, Ray, go on. Yeah.
Well, what it is, they've got the coroner now's office is in the civic centre where it didn't used to be before. They just use it on the morning of the coroner's court and things, but the coroner is actually in the civic centre now, and they're looking to rearrange a lot of the positions and some of the furniture and offices to accommodate this, because they've been extremely busy and they've had to take additional people on because of COVID and the registrations and deaths and things. So they've been extremely busy, and I think that's what it is. It's making the changes to give them more capacity and to do their job a lot better than they can, you know.
Ray, thank you for that insight. Charles, are you?
Chair, can I just remind people to switch their cameras on when they're speaking? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Charles, is that enough for you?
Yeah, thank you for those replies.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Who we got there? Who's speaking?
Ibrahim.
Abram, okay. Yes, Abram, yeah, of course you may. The procedure is that you indicate in the meeting chat. Abram, I can't see it there, but of course, yes. What is the question?
Chair, it's to do with the public space protection orders that
I'm sorry to interrupt. Councillor, please could you switch your camera on so that I can send you to the live event? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, your mic is off now, Councillor Hyatt.
I just wanted to ask, please, about the public space protection orders. Once, obviously, because of COVID, everything's on hold with these matters, but are we likely to get them up and running in the new financial year?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hyatt. And Rhys or Matt, do you want to take that one?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's the intention for these to be worked on. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Rhys. And yeah, I did raise before, but thank you for the clarification. Right, does anybody else have a question? No? Okay, thank you. I've got a few, but I'm only going to use two of them, I think. So as you've said, and for the right reasons, and we thank the guys for the work that they're doing, quite a few actions, for example, number 7, 8, 14, 17 and 18 have been interrupted because of the good work that officers have done being reallocated or to enforcement work. Any idea when the grant-funded COVID enforcements will be brought in to allow these council officers to be released to continue their duties? So in effect, the officers that have been seconded and they're doing great work, do we know when this money is going to come in and when are they going to be able to go back to their roles? Does that make sense?
Yes, Councillor, I can deal with that one if that's okay. The grant was supposed to be for a 6-month period, so that would be from the 1st of October onwards. It came in just a little bit later than that, but we had 2 officers, compliance officers, whose job it is now to inspect the businesses, and that's all they will be doing. They came on stream about 2 weeks ago, so just a little bit late, but quite early on. So they've been doing dozens of inspections every day, and the plan is that they're out there and they're inexperienced, they're ex-police officers, so they've got bags of skills and qualities, but they don't know our regulations. The idea is they go out and they're problem spotting for us. They'll cover a lot of ground, and then they'll send back to the experienced officers just the problem ones, and then we'll go in then and deal with those. So that frees up how it will cover more businesses. And when we do need to go and interact with businesses about proper problems, we'll be using our skills, to deal with the real high priority areas. That will also free us up to be able to do our road trader work, our illegal tobacco work, consumer fraud work, and those sorts of things. And also built into that is the plan with licensing to get our licensing backlog back on stream, and we've got to issue more licenses and so on. Okay. So that's all being done, and it started a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so I'm going to push you a little bit. So yes. Timescales when you can get these people back to their normal roles? Are we talking a couple of weeks, couple of months? Well, it could be right now, but it will be. But what we've done is because we're moving from the fire break to the new regulations, which are quite complicated, and also people have had a bit of a break. We're going to do with the police, but also a lot on our own. All our available officers will be doing a lot of inspections over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So into December will be the time when we will be doing a lot more of the consumer protection and licensing work. So if it wasn't for the change in the rules, we'd be doing that now. So we've got a couple of weeks more of everybody focusing on COVID work. So really soon, a few weeks is the answer.
Matthew, that's great, and it's good to thank you for speaking with such clarity and passion. Thank you. There was a second one, but I'm going to leave that one because it was more to do with the budget and perhaps more to do. We'll take it up at another time. So in light of everything, another opportunity. Does anybody have any more questions? I'm guessing not. Okay, well, thank you, Ray, Rhys, and Matthew, and thank you for all the work genuinely that you're doing from this committee, and I'm sure all committee members will join me in stay safe as from Monday when you're back out there in the field with these new regulations. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chair.
No,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Cheers. So we're now over to the midway service review plans, and we have obviously community and resources. So we've got Councillor David Mayer, I believe Deb Davis, and I think Rhys, you cross over the two portfolios there. So I'm going to invite the cabinet member or members to give an overview if they choose first of all. If not, Rhys, if you would like to do that and you kind of know the format, then we'll do 5-10 minutes of questioning. So David, would you like to give an overview of the report? Deb?
Yes, it's can I say I'm always pleased to attend Scrutiny. You know what a champion I've been for Scrutiny over the years. I don't think it'd be there at all if it wasn't for me originally. So it is a pleasure and it's certainly a pleasure to be presenting this because it's a good report as always. And I've got some of the best officers, if not the best officers in Wales and maybe the UK. So they will give you all the detail that you need to have on this. I'd just like to say what I always say about my portfolio is that we are an odd combination of glue and oil. With the glue that keeps the machine together and with the oil that makes it work and continue to work. So what we are, a service industry to everybody else here. So I'll hand you over to the expert. I think Deb wants to say something.
Well, thank you for that, David. And Debs, hi. Did you want to give an overview, and then we'll go into some of the ambers and so on with Rhys, perhaps. But over to you, Debs.
Thank you. Good evening, Chris, and thank you so much for inviting me to your Scrutiny Committee. And I echo David's words. I think scrutiny is the fundamental key to the functioning of local government. It's where the questions and challenges actually take place to ensure that we make effective decisions. I'm really pleased to be here. Essentially, I'm here because within my portfolio, my specific role in relation to this report is Key Objective 1, which is the Future Generations and Wellbeing Act, and also very newly Key Objective 5, which is to look at the aim and implementation of the social-economic duty. I just quickly briefly mentioned the social-economic duty. It's actually a very new policy. It's actually a Welsh Government, it's being Welsh Government implemented, but it's to ensure that we deliver a better outcome for those who experience social-economic deprivation and disadvantage. It's intended to complement the public sector equality duty and the intentions of the Wellbeing and Future Generations Act, and has to be enforced by March 2021. So it's very new, work is in development in progress, and you'll hear more, and I have no doubt as a Scrutiny Committee about that. However, I also hear in my capacity in relation to the Future and Wellbeing Act. And what I will say is it's new to my portfolio. My portfolio is a new portfolio, but it's about the relevance and importance of the Future Generations Act to our local authority to ensure that we're embedding it and it's being delivered effectively and appropriately, and that's why it's been given a key priority within my portfolio. And I will certainly say really good progress has been made throughout the last 5 years since its implementation, and we can see that work being developed through our corporate plans and also with our Public Service Board. and we can see evidence of progress that's been made with the annual reports that have been published, and 2 reports that are available for public domain from the Public Service Board. And there's some really, really good things there that we can speak highly of and look at exactly what key objectives we are already achieving. But I'm actually going to hand over to our officers to talk about the progress we've made in this past year. Okay.
Thank you, Debs, and thank you. Honestly, thank you for the work that you're doing. Okay, so I believe we're gonna Reese. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. No, genuinely, it is good to see you. And yeah, so maybe if we can get into some of your great details, man. So looking forward to this. If you could. Give us some indication on some of these areas, and then I'll open it up to questioning. Okay.
Thanks very much. Good evening, committee. Yeah. So look, this is obviously the mid-year review in an unprecedented year. Well, I think we all kind of recognise that. So I will try not to play the COVID-19 card too often when I'm talking to you about what's going on this year, but obviously it has had a big impact. These service plans, obviously they're a rolling service plan now. We put in place a 5-year service plan process so that you've got a service plan that is updated, adapted, developed over that period of time in order to deliver the corporate plan, which takes up to 2022. So this is a kind of a re-emergence of last year's plan, but also clearly taking into account the strategic recovery aims that we put in place as a council in order to get us out of the impact that we're facing as a result of COVID. Just a couple of things before I get into the ambers and the couple of reds that we've got, because I think that's where you want to focus, Chair. Just to say, obviously, one of the first things you'll see there is a budget that has got an underspend against it at the moment, and that underspend is primarily related to the impacts of COVID. And there are a number of smaller underspends, but there's some larger underspends in there against our organisational development budget, because obviously we pay for quite a lot of training for staff that we've had to find new ways of doing, and therefore that cost is significantly reduced. And also a whole series of IT developments that we haven't put into place during the course of the first 6 months. So, because obviously we've been dealing with some other issues around IT and ensuring that we can all operate. So there's some underspends associated with those 2 things, not things we'd anticipate to cause us issues in the future, but just to make the committee aware that's why we're in that situation at the moment. As a service area, we obviously lead on risk and performance, and we're dealing with some quite big risks at the moment. COVID-19 is the #1 risk. It's got the highest risk score in the risk register, as you can imagine. And we're dealing with that on a multi-agency basis, and I'll talk some more, and Tracy's online as well, and she'll probably want to add to this around our civil contingencies response, because that's also part of the service area and how we deal with those sort of emergencies. We're also leading on the work around Brexit, so that's within our risk register. I'll just pick up the top 3, which are the increasing ones. And then cyber security. So right at the beginning of the lockdown, when we had a series of members working from home, officers working from home, we had national notification of the increased risk around cyber attacks. So that is an increased risk there, and we can talk to you about some of the mitigations we've got in place to protect us for that. As a service area, the cabinet members have both alluded to this. As a service area, we enable the rest of the organisation to operate, and I think some of the biggest things we've done around that during this year have been one around the preparedness we had around IT facilities. IT is something that is easy to criticise within an organisation. But if you think about it, within 3 days of the national lockdown, we had 1,200 staff working from home. So we, because of the investments we made previously and some of the strategic decisions we made previously, 85% of our staff had laptops and were able to take those home with them. We had a mobility solution in place, so actually we could access all of our systems remotely and securely. We had Office 365, so we had facilities such as Teams as part of that. So we were in a good position as far as that was concerned from the off. So we really hit the ground running in those first days and weeks. And obviously we've made developments through the course of that. Our health and safety team have obviously played a critical role in supporting the organisation and our schools and ensuring they're COVID compliant, that we're ensuring we keep both our staff, our pupils and our service users safe. So they've had a incredible amount of stress onto that part of the service area. Within civil contingencies itself, civil contingencies is essentially, you know, our very small team working in civil contingencies, led incredibly well by Tracy, has done an amazing job of holding a lot of this together and working with the Resilience Forum across Gwent to continue with that work. There's lots of really good things that we've done that we wouldn't ordinarily have planned to do. So I think, you know, that's probably just worth saying. I'm happy to go through each of the ambers and reds individually. I think we've got 13 ambers in there and two reds.
I'm sure members will pick up on anything that they consider to be concerned. If you can extract maybe 50% of it, don't go through everyone verbatim, but you're an incredibly experienced officer, and you will know the ones that will concern members. Yeah.
So look, what I was going to say is you can group them in a number of ways. I think we have.
Yeah, if we just carry on, Rhys.
Yeah, okay.
So could you excuse me 1 second? Sorry, I said carry on then. And I'm sure one of the officers will communicate and address the issue at hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Certainly, Chair. Yes, I am now.
Thank you, Rhys. If you would like to continue.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So look, I can group them in a number of ways. There are a series of ambers around pushing forward Wellbeing of Future Generations Act within the organisation, about some of the work the civil contingencies are doing for the organisation, and around risk management, for instance, that are, you know, also things like community cohesion and the integration work we're doing. That resource has been redirected by and large in order to deal with COVID related activity. So there are a number of ambers associated with those things as a result of COVID. Not to make excuses, that is just a fact. We've just redirected the resources. So the community cohesion resource has been out there doing COVID related things for those communities that are more impacted. The civil contingencies team, as I've said, has been primarily delivering activity against COVID. So it has had an impact against those things. There are a number of other ambers in there, which I'd kind of encapsulate within a single word, which is our change and our business process work. And there's been some impact as a result of COVID on that. But the primary reason they're amber at the moment is because we've been going through a restructure. And obviously that restructure has been elongated as a result of of COVID. We started it just before COVID hit, and we went into lockdown in March, and that was protracted then during the year. So there's a number in there which are around business change processes, etc., which we would class as amber. There's still work going on, but we're not where we thought we would be. And there's also a red in there, which is related to the governance around that business change process. So, just to reassure members, we have governance arrangements around all our change processes. Heads of service are responsible for change within their service areas and monitor those. And that's reported primarily through their service plans, etc. But we had some, I suppose, we had some high expectations of some things we were going to get done this year, which we simply haven't got to fruition. So that's going to be slightly delayed. And there's another one which is red, which is around representative workforce issues. So for those members who listen to our annual report and strategic equalities plan, you know, we still do not have a workforce that is representative of the communities it serves. So we've got a work programme in place for that. Rachel is online and can answer any specific questions about that, but we've got a programme in place to to move us forward with that. And again, we're not quite where we want to be as far as that is concerned, partly because some of the difficulties, not the resources being allocated to do things to do with COVID, but just some of the difficulties again, some of those things done in a COVID world.
Okay.
So that would be my overview of those things.
Thank you.
Take questions.
Thank you. I've got a member to indicating that they want to ask some questions. But would your colleague Tracy like to say something first of all? Give a little overview first of all, or not?
Can I suggest, Chair? Rachel's online. If there are any questions related to HR, could we take those first?
Yeah.
It's only because Rachel's got appearance evening, virtual appearance evening to attend.
We've got one indication so far. McDad, would you like to go first? I'm guessing, is your question related to HR?
No, not to HR.
No. There's another councillor waiting, Councillor Mark Whitcutt. Mark, is your question related to HR?
Yes, Chair, it is actually.
So, excuse me 1 second then, Mark. McDad, if you stand down and I'll leave Mark go first. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it was to it was to Rhys actually, and it was just a general question, which is, given that national policies keep changing on things like the furlough, how much, because the furlough is relevant to issues generally such as redundancies and continued employment, and bearing in mind the impositions which are being placed on local government, really with massive additional responsibilities at the current time. I just wondered, does it cause, does it raise major challenges in terms of planning, in terms of the HR function, when things like, for example, the furlough, that we're told one moment that it's going to come to an end, and then they say it'll be for an extra month, and now they've said that it's going to be until really the end of the financial year.
Okay, thank you, Mark. There's relevance there. Rhys, do you want to give a quick reply to that, and then we'll let your colleague get off to her parents' evening.
She will be back, Chair.
Oh no,
she's going to be shortly. In a nutshell, I suppose the short answer is no. We, as an organisation, incredibly small numbers of staff that have been impacted by the furlough scheme. We've continued employment of all our staff. We've pretty much delivered most services we would ordinarily deliver throughout the course of this pandemic, many in different ways. But as Rhys was talking about earlier on, we've had to deliver new things as well. So contact tracing is part of that. So we've actually any slack in service areas where we've had staff who we could redeploy, we've redeployed into other areas. We did a trawl amongst our staff group to redeploy into social care at the beginning of the pandemic. Our community support teams working through regeneration, investment and housing, did a lot of work in communities as part of the shielding scheme and making around the sort of food parcel activities, etc. So we've done quite a lot of redeployment rather than furloughing staff. So, and a lot of our staff, as I said, we had 1,200 staff working from home within a few days of the pandemic starting. A lot of our staff are able to fulfill their functions in places other than their offices. So if you think about our face-to-face delivery, a big proportion of that is around city services and social care, and they were more than operational throughout the pandemic. So it doesn't cause us a particular issue. I think if Myron was here and he was talking about his service area, maybe that's a question for his at the next scrutiny committee. Obviously, changing policy and schemes around business support has actually required us to actually think on our feet more and actually put more resource into doing things differently. I would suggest.
Okay, thank you, Rhys. Mark, thank you for the question. I'm going to move. I'm going to move on now. Mcdad, thank you for waiting patiently, and I'm aware that Charles is waiting in the wings as well. So, Mcdad, over to you.
Yeah. Just to say, Chair, I think it's true that, you know, as a member, I'm concerned about all the ones that are showing amber or red, but at the same time, we do understand, you know, the circumstances at all, and I think some of the ambers, you know, they're showing quite high percentages. So, you know, I can understand on that. If I can take the one which is action. Sorry, where is it? Yeah, action 2, in terms of delivery against the Welsh Government Community Cohesion Plan. Now, there, you know, can I just say that I welcome, there's a lot of information there, and I welcome really the detailed nature of sort of the commentary from the team on that. If I can just pick on a couple of things for questions. Well, what I welcome about that is that it's wider now than just the BAME, because I would welcome, you know, the addition of, for example, the you know, the EU nationals after Brexit has been part of what we have to, you know, implement in community cohesion and all that. So I think that's to be welcome. The other one is about the Gypsy and Traveller Multi-Agency Response Group. If I can ask on that one, in view of the concern that, you know, quite a few of my colleagues expressed at the last council meeting, and in terms of the unauthorised encampments that happen now and again in Newport. I mean, the big one was in Dufferin, which sort of made people quite antagonistic. One, actually, a short one, mercifully, was in the city centre in my own ward as well. Can I just ask, if we are going to establish this group, can we not try and resolve the issues about unauthorised encampments? Why do we need to have unauthorised encampments? And shouldn't community cohesion has a role in terms of, you know, coming to an understanding with the Gypsy and Traveller communities about this? Because, well, even if they have to do that, you know, it's right that they should leave the site sort of for council to clear after them. So can I welcome that sort of regional or that sort of multi-agency response group? But can they actually do something about that? Can they have some teeth rather than, you know, just commentary on what is going on?
Okay. Tracy, this is your area of expertise, isn't it? I think we made that as.
Chair, your microphone's off, thank you.
That's. I do apologise there. I certainly didn't switch it off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. So Tracy, on the question that Mcdad asked there, if you could answer that, please, as opposed to the maybe the comments or whatever.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I wrote down 2 questions, so I'll answer those. So the first thing is, which is a helpful comment about the Welsh Government's Community Cohesion Plan, and that's amber. But there is a lot of activity recorded. So to be absolutely clear, Wales Government give us certain things we have to do. And we've done a lot of things, but not necessarily all the things we would have planned because of COVID. But there's very detailed activity. And obviously, because of the issues of COVID affecting the BAME community more severely in many ways, socioeconomic and health-wise, we've had to do a lot of work there. So that's the first part. The second part was also raised at the scrutiny of the Strategic Equalities Plan by the councillor also, so the same point, so I'll repeat that. So we do need to separate the community cohesion work around the Gypsy Traveller community from for want of a better term, the enforcement work. I mean, the team that work with us, we are making sure that we're working with the rights of people, that we're fully understanding different communities, and that team is funded by Wales Government to do that work. And when we don't have Wales Government funding, we no longer have that team, and we no longer have that work, as I explained to the councillor last week. The enforcement and the work with those communities to perhaps move on where there's an unauthorised issue is dealt with elsewhere in the council. That's not to cop out of it. We're very much part of that discussion, but we do need to also protect the rights of individuals, and then there is an inherent tension there, therefore it's separated. I don't know if Rhys wants to come in, because I know you came on the screen.
Tracy, thank you ever so much for that. And we have to obviously focus on the areas of responsibility for this scrutiny committee, but thank you for that that answer. Thank you. Rhys, I'm not sure you would have anything to add to that. I mean, we did cover it elsewhere, you know.
Yeah, I certainly couldn't said it as eloquently as Tracy just said. You know, it's essentially, you know, this is about a specific piece of work, and you know, in a nutshell, the communication work that we do, regardless of the communities we're working with, is about trying to ensure that we listen to, we adapt, and we work with those communities so we don't have issues. I think that's fundamentally the point. As Tracy said, enforcement is dealt with elsewhere in the organisation, and obviously with other organisations as well.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come in? I wasn't necessarily saying that you should do it via enforcement. I'm saying really, you know, that the Gypsy and Traveller communities are part of the wider community. We don't need enforcement. All we need is an understanding here, not enforcement, really. Sorry if it came out that I'm not asking you to.
No, we accept your points, McDad. I think there is an element of repetition and overlap here with another scrutiny committee. And I think some of the points were made quite eloquently there, where perhaps this is more appropriate. We are obviously looking at placing corporate performance. So in conclusion, Rhys, do you just want to conclude with a sentence or so?
Yeah, just to pick up on Councillor Al-Nawami's point there. No, totally accept that. And obviously, you know, the first port of call when there's an unauthorised encampment is a conversation to talk to them about the impacts of that, in order to, and so look, you know, police have liaison officers that are involved in that. We work very, very closely with them from our side as well. So that's the first, because nobody wants to go down to enforcement activities, certainly not us, and certainly not those communities. Yeah. But it's just trying to have a conversation around the impacts, etc., around those places. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And yes, it is taken into consideration.
Yeah. And Chairman, if I may do, I think you're a little bit mistaken there, because I mean, I'm picking it up from the papers here.
Yeah,
I don't intend to repeat it, but it is an action, and yes, it's an amber measure, and that's where I picked it.
Thank you, McDad, and thank you for the clarification. And we'll now move on to the next question. Thank you ever so much. Could we speak, Councillor Charles Ferris, please, is next.
There we are, hang on, with you now, Chairman. Here we are. Sorry, we'll start with a bit of a digression, if I may. So we got 1,200 staff.
You might as well, Charles. You know,
well, I always do. We got 1,200 staff working from home, Rhys. Am I right in thinking that's about a third of the workforce? And what about the ones that aren't? Are they furloughed or what? That's not the question, though.
It was a bit of a question, Councillor Ferris.
Yeah, a bit of a question, yeah.
So non-school staff, we've got around about just under 2,000 headcount.
Right.
Yeah. Those 1,200 are not all working from home now, because obviously we you know, the directive at the time was those staff who can work from home. So everybody was sent home at that point, and we were still operational. The other staff work, and nobody's been furloughed at the rest of them. The other staff are working are those staff working in social care, in social services, and in city services primarily. There's some staff in our service area, some of Mark's staff in document services. Mark, for instance, who's on the call, has been in the Civic Centre pretty much every day since the pandemic started. And those staff who were unable to work elsewhere, we've basically gone out, made sure they're working in a safe environment in their workplaces. One of the things that keeps their workplace safe is those staff who don't need to be there not being there. So actually part of our strategy about keeping people who can work from home at home is about keeping those who have to be in the workplace safe. So for instance, social services, social workers are in the Civic Centre, small numbers of them. They have to be because of the court work they do, etc. So there's no other way of doing that. So no, we didn't furlough everybody else.
Okay.
A chunk of our staff were working from home. The rest of them were working in the workplace. Yeah, so that was the answer to that.
Cool. Thank you. Charles, question.
The question, yeah, well, I'm asking about a green, actually, rather than a red or amber.
At least we're getting there.
On page 64, we've got the creation of a resolution-based approach to handling conflict, which is action 14. It's shown as green, although just 20% of this has been achieved. I wondered if there was any further progress. I think it's very laudable aims, building on more trust and respect. I wish you success.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll start. Rachel is back on the call now, so Rachel can pick some of this up. So we've done quite a lot of analysis of the amount of resource versus outcomes associated with some of those policies that we've currently got in place. So on the one hand, that's a driver, but on the other hand, as a modern 21st century organisation, as detailed in the corporate plan, has been a modernised council. That's not all about technology. That's also about the way you behave and the way you treat your staff and how you work together collegiately. So Rachel's been leading the team to do a piece of work around a range of policies, which are about changing the way we approach a range of things. So Rachel, I don't know if you want to add something detail into that.
Yes, no, happy to. We obviously have to keep our statutory policies such as disciplinary and grievance because ACAS requires us to, and we need to have a formal process for when people remain aggrieved or there is some serious misconduct committed. However, out of all of the resource that we put into dealing with workplace conflict, whether that's behavioural or whether that's an issue around terms and conditions of employment, for example, we believe that there are alternative ways of doing that. And to come up with a conflict resolution policy, which is around treating people mutually with respect, getting people around the table to figure out what are the problems and how can we resolve them informally or at the lowest possible denominator, to be able to move forward in a pragmatic and an adult way, then we think that would show the organisation is behaving in a far more mature way and is able to deal with things much quickly compared to how we currently do. Because the only option available to us at the moment is to take people through a very formal process, which can take a very long time. That costs money to the council. It causes an awful lot of stress for individuals and for teams involved. And we just think that a different approach, I suppose it's similarly to how schools are using restorative justice far more in how they deal with pupil behaviour. We need to look at more modern ways of being able to resolve conflict without going to a very drawn-out formal process. So it's green because it's on track in terms of we are where we want to be, and lots of the activity will come in the last part of the year, whereby we get sign-off and implementation. So in terms of the research, the design and the development of that, it's on track for where we want to be. But yeah, the implementation, getting it in, is going to come in the last part of the year.
So probably we're more than 20%. It's just like the American elections, we can't declare yet, eh?
That's really good job, really good. Thank you, Rachel. Right, who have we got you now? Councillor Mark Whitcott next, I think. Hiya, Mark.
Thanks, Chair. It's just to follow up what Rachel was saying there. When she's talking about these more formal processes, I mean, is she talking about grievance and disciplinary procedures? That was really my question. If I could just follow that up, if depending on the answer, Chair.
Yes, of course.
Yes, the formal processes I was referring to are those disciplinary and grievances. we would still need to maintain a formal process. We can't not have a disciplinary policy or a grievance procedure. We would have to keep those. But rather than everything going through those, we think there is an alternative way of resolving.
Yeah, so really what you're talking about is an improved informal resolution process. You know, I was really just to clarify that point. Thanks for that, Chair.
No, that's good, Mark. It's an area of expertise for you, really, isn't it?
Well, it is quite close to my heart.
No, absolutely. I do apologise. Thank you. Is there any right? Okay, I do apologise. I think Mick Dad, you had another question. Did you or did you not?
I do, but I can come at the end, Chair.
I think we are potentially towards the end now. So.
Okay.
Of this round of question, is it relevant to this round of question? Yeah.
It's the same area, and I'm again very pleased to note that there is a mention here: engagement with the places of worship in order to assist with the planning or reopening and respond to any local concerns. Can I ask some elaboration on that? Who, you know, what sort of engagement are we going to do? Who is going to do it? And what sort of, you know, are we covering every place of worship? Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're ready. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. I'll start by saying I don't know if we're covering every place of worship. That would be wrong of me to say that. I can check that, but we've been engaging with, for example, the mosques, but and other churches about, is it safe, what are the expectations, and also when we're talking about is it safe to reopen, sometimes we are saying no, to be clear, and making sure that everyone is aware of that and that places don't open. This is a backward look, so it's for the first half of the year, but for the moment that work is ongoing. So we're talking to church leaders, community leaders and places of worship, and that's very much in the Wales Government requirement for us.
Good. Thank you. Can yeah. This is not a COVID specific, is it?
This is, yes, because this work is
specific, yeah?
Yeah, this work is the work that the usual community cohesion plan has had to be amended in order to allow COVID work to take place. So that when we're talking about to assist with the planning of reopening, we are talking about the reopening of potentially churches and also what the public thinks. So you'll be aware occasionally there's some discussion on social media about churches and mosques opening when in fact they haven't. Yeah. And we've needed to correct some myths around that as well.
But who's doing the engagement? You mean you?
People in my team, the community cohesion officers. So the same Wales Government funded team.
Because I mean, I get some of the issues there to do with, you know, limited parking on Sundays or Fridays, because being in the city centre and because of the CPE, you know, their congregations suffer as a result. I'm glad, you know, to hear that you have this link, this sort of forum or whatever, you know, formal or informal, that you can actually cover that, so that next time I have some representation, I can ask them perhaps to talk to you, Tracy, or to you, section.
Yeah, certainly, and we can pass some contact details on to you. It would need to be about community cohesion issues. But well, I get that sometimes practical and operation issues can spill into such things, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said that it is, but...
Okay, cool, good. Do you guys want to have that conversation together afterwards? I'm sure you can schedule a call there, Tracy, to follow that through. I don't think, thank you. I don't think we have any more questions. I've got a couple here. I think they're more for Reese. I don't know if you're there, Reese. Hopefully you are. So corporate risk from COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, Brexit, cyber security, all very much, you know, potentially a perfect storm, all showing as red, high probability and high impact. What mitigation, you did touch on this, but perhaps we can expand. What mitigation is in place to reduce the impact on capacity and capability for the service area to deliver their objectives?
Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely for me.
Without getting into too much academia or whatever, you know.
I try my best not to, Chair.
You never do.
So you know, they hit red when they hit a certain threshold, which means they essentially go to SLT and end up on the corporate risk register. So we're dealing with those 3 particular issues at the moment. So I'll take them in reverse order. Cybersecurity. Obviously, we've done a lot around cybersecurity as an organisation over the last 4 or 5 years, ably led by Mark, who's on the call. Mark has recently procured an additional level of security for the organisation, which is being implemented at the moment, and that will reduce that risk. Okay, so that one is being mitigated against. Brexit. The impacts on the service area are primarily around 2 things, and one of those is around availability of kit, and I'm primarily talking about IT. We've already seen impact on the availability of laptops unrelated to Brexit, and that is primarily between the sort of trade war. I can't describe it in another way. The trade war between the US and China. And that's really impacted on components coming out of China, go into the US and vice versa for manufacturers. So we've had an impact around that, not to do with Brexit, but we're anticipating some issues around that. And that's picked up by the Brexit Task and Finish group, which I chair, which is a cross-organisation group. And there's a report going to Cabinet on that next week, on the 11th. So we're dealing with that. Obviously, a big impact. The other big impact on our service area is around community cohesion. So the work we're doing currently, Councillor Al Nawami mentioned Eastern European, essentially workers in the city, and the community cohesion team has done a lot of work around that, encouraging people to apply for settled status, etc. So we've had a lot of work around that, but obviously there's a lot of communication input there. COVID-19, we lead for the organisation on that strategic recovery plan. Tracy's team pulled that together. It's part of our entire performance risk management process. And you know, service area resilience, and resilience is a thing I think any service area would talk to you about at the moment. As a local authority, we've got a pretty low staff base if you compare us to comparably sized local authorities. So resilience is always an issue for us, particular issue when you're dealing with a global pandemic. So we've had lots of staff operating in different ways, and I'll say publicly, you know, our staff group in the organisation has been immense throughout this pandemic. The work they've done, the things they've taken on, the way they've responded to requests has been amazing. And a particular mention to Reese and Matt around the enforcement and contact tracing stuff, because that you know, the performance of the Gwent contact tracing service is astounding, essentially. So so they've done a really good job. So, you know, maintaining organisational resilience is really important for us. And, you know, we've done a lot of work for the organisation around making sure people got the right kit, you know, whether that's IT, whether that's chairs, risers, monitors, desks. We've been shipping those out to staff across the organisation to do that. Also around well-being. So asking people about how they are and making sure we're putting the right mitigations in place to support them through that, which has resulted in things. For instance, our service area had a 40-minute mindfulness session via Teams a week before last. So doing things like that to make sure we're looking after our staff. We won't always get it right, but we're working really hard to do that. So those are the key things for us at the moment. Obviously, the pandemic and what happens with the pandemic is outside of our control, but you know, our civil contingencies team, which is Ian Martin and Kerry Jones, They are doing an incredible job, and we Tracy, I know, has got them wrapped up in cotton wool because we can't have anything happen to them, because they're really doing a great job in ensuring that the organisation is responding appropriately. Plus all the other things that we have to deal with from a civil contingencies point of view as well, because they haven't gone away. Okay, thank you for that, Rhys, and a really sort of concise answer. Thank you. And one final question from me. I think action 2, I think page 65, to quote, support the council in developing robust governance arrangements that monitors the delivery of strategic programmes and projects that align with the council's finance, HR, planning, performance and risk management process. Any idea when next year this will start, or is it dependent on the pandemic? I briefly mentioned it when I was talking about the ambers and the reds. So we started a restructure. So essentially what this is about, we've governance arrangements, and that's kind of embedded within our head of service delegated authority and our corporate management team processes. So we have governance arrangements. I don't want the committee to think they aren't there. But we have some aspirations about what that's going to look and feel like. So in Tracy's team, Paul Flint has done a really good job of developing MI Hub, which is our performance management system, and embedding all that governance and project management linked into finance and HR systems within that system. We started a restructure of that team in late winter. Pandemic overtook us. We are just finalising that restructure at the moment. That allow us then to start taking the next steps in order to do that. So it's not COVID has delayed us up until this point, but the key for us now is just getting stuck into it and getting done. So it's not where it should be, but I'm thinking probably late spring we're going to be in a much better position than we are at the moment. Okay, thank you. And I don't think there are any more questions from anybody else. So thank you to everybody. Have a great evening, and thank you to all the officers and cabinet members.
I got one up. Yeah.
I didn't see that, Charles. Sorry. Well, there we are. Good.
That's it. Okay. Well,
then you nearly got away there, Rhys.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was a killer question, Rhys. I'm sorry about this. Now, tonight, normally we'd be celebrating the Chartist festivals, and but unfortunately, a lot of that has had to be kicked into touch. I note that this year, as part of the Festival of Democracy, we had 20 things to do by 2020. Did we do them?
I'd like to give you a 45-minute answer to that, Councillor Ferris, so just to keep us on the line. I honestly don't know, so I might defer to Tracy on this one. If Tracy might or might not know the answer to it.
I don't know the detail. We definitely did some of them. We haven't reported on it this year, so I'd have to go back and check. We can take that up as a follow-up action from Scrutiny.
Yeah, thanks, Trace.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Councillor Ferris?
Yeah, that's okay. Just out of curiosity, I mean, I think you'd have every reason, if you given the circumstances, if you didn't do the full 20, but you know, it'd be interesting to know.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. And yeah, we'll see you all again. Cheers, Charles. That was a good conclusion.
Except it was yesterday, Charles. It was yesterday.
Yeah, well, close.
All right, okay. Yeah, okay. Everyone's more than welcome to stay if they want.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Bye.
You going to fire works party? Are you to a guy folks, whatever they call it?
Me? No, I'm not going anywhere. No.
Bonfire night. Yeah,
bonfire night. Yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere. Right. Okay. So it's back to the committee.
Thank you all.
No, we haven't finished yet. We haven't finished it. The committee's still here. Yeah, thank you to the officers. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No. We've got the conclusion. So item number 5. So thank you for everybody taking part in the service plan mid-year reviews. Item number 5, conclusions of committee reports. So this is where we kind of do the takeaways
So anything that we want to highlight from this committee meeting to put forward. Is there anything that we would like to amplify as standout sort of takeaways, is the terminology that I'm using, from this meeting, or are we quite content for the minutes to represent things as they will be recorded?
I suggest the minutes, Chair, because to be honest with you, if we start each one of us highlighting, it will be like another meeting.
Like you highlighting continually.
I would suggest the minutes.
I would hope that you would do that, Micdad, if somebody else wants to second that. But Mark, is there anything that you want highlighted?
No, I agree. I agree with Micdad, and I was just going to say that after what you've said, it's a good job that takeaways are still open.
Right.
Boom. Well done, Mark.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I like it. No, it's good. Good. Okay, great. Okay, so Neil, you're still there. We're not going to amplify anything or have a takeaway. We're merely the minutes as they stand. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Chair.
Okay, and the final item you might be relieved to know is the forward work plan, which members will see begins on page 115. The next meeting is
in a fortnight, isn't it?
Yes, in a fortnight, and it's the second half of this meeting. And in the pre-meeting, we suggested, well, we knew that obviously the head of laws standards, the leader, will be present for items that are in her portfolio and other things. And then the meeting after that goes to, believe it or not, budget in January, Monday the 11th. So, I mean, we can go further than that in our further and suggest things that we want to look at. But can I suggest maybe we think on those for the meeting on the 19th, and then if there's anything we want to add to our forward work plan, we can add them. We can add them at that meeting. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. Budget time again. Good grief. There we are. I think that's it. So thank you everyone for attending, and have a good evening. If you have if you go to bonfire night, get a takeaway. Mark's paying.
just before you you go, Chair, just to say that I may have difficulty on the 19th because I'm engaged in what they call a judicial mediation.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very long and extended process. So I'm not sure they'll be finished in time.
Well,
so just
we
wanted
note your apologies in advance, Mark. And
yeah, if I can, then obviously I'll be there. And just to mention that for those of you who may know, I used to work with Charles's brother in my workplace, and I see that he was on the television the night before last on the 10 o'clock news.
Was he? Well, what did he get caught for? What was he doing, Charles?
Oh, well, unfortunately, I missed it. He was on the 10 o'clock news, was he? Oh,
yeah,
dear.
Yeah, he was making wise comments on the lockdown, actually encouraging people to follow the rules. But
well done. He's always more vehement when he speaks to me. But there we are.
Is that
it? Being a little brother, that's the lowest form of life, isn't it?
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Neil, if you and perhaps we'll have 2 minutes at the end, okay? But thank you, and thank you to everybody that came. Okay, cheers.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Oh.